Lauren sat on the sofa, trying to find a comfortable pose, but the stomach that was already almost touching her knees made it impossible. She was in the last weeks of pregnancy, and even getting up from the chair was a test. Her husband, Michael, was a good guy, but lately in the evenings he disappeared, then football with friends, then a bar with colleagues. "Michael," she said that evening, when he was already pulling on his team's favorite t-shirt, "promise me that when the time comes to give birth, you will be there." "I'm scared, Mike." "Sure, honey," Michael replied, kissing her forehead, "as soon as it starts, I'll be here." But this evening, unfortunately, coincided with the final of the championship, an important match that his team had been waiting for 2 years. Lauren woke up with a sharp pain. She looked at her watch and realized that the time had come. The waters have receded. Michael was not at home. God, Michael. She dialed his number, her voice tremoring. "It's all started, I'm giving birth." "What?" "Oh," Michael looked back at the huge screen in the bar where the fans were roaring. "I'm on my way, honey, just a minute." Lauren sighed. She knew he was lying. The answer was too fast, and there was inattention in his voice. Without delay, she dialed the number of her sister, Emma, who lived nearby. "I'm already flying to you," Emma shouted, grabbing the keys. Michael continued to call every 5 minutes, as if checking the situation. "So, are you already giving birth?" "I have a couple more minutes, here I have to watch." Lauren could barely speak from the pain, but every time she listened to his words with bitter resentment. "Is the match more important than me?" Surprisingly, Michael made it. He ran into the delivery room when Lauren was already in the final stage. The son's name was Noah. Michael stood beside her, looking at the child in emotion, and whispered softly, "Forgive me. I was an idiot." However, the wound did not heal so quickly. Lauren held the grudge for a long time. She loved Michael, but his act during childbirth became a crack, which he tried to patch with all of his might. Michael turned into an ideal father. He changed diapers, put Noah to sleep, gave his wife the opportunity to rest, and every day proved his love. One day, Michael's parents invited the whole family to dinner. Lauren was nervous. She didn't like family gatherings, but for Noah's sake, she agreed. The lunch was great until Michael started telling the story of his son's birth. "I was with Lauren all day. Believe me, standing on your feet and supporting her all the time is very exhausting. I almost fainted." Lauren felt a wave of anger rising inside her. She couldn't be silent anymore. Slowly getting up from the chair, she said, "That's a lie, Michael. You watched football when I was suffering in pain." There was silence in the room. Michael's mother, Mrs. Jenkins, slowly got up from the chair. She was a woman of old principles and could not stand lies. "Michael." Her voice was as thunderous. "Is it true? Did you leave your wife during childbirth for a football match?" "Mom, it's not quite like that," Michael began. "Shame on you, son. Shame." Mrs. Jenkins raised her finger, like a teacher. "That's not how I raised you. I repeat 1,000,000 times, shame. Your wife gave birth, and you. Michael lowered his head, realizing that he had the right. Lauren wanted to add something else, but saw him looking at her and their little Noah with guilt and love. After that scandal in his parents' house, Michael could not recover for a long time. He felt shame and guilt, which he could not get rid of so easily. On the way home, he was silent, sometimes looking at Lauren, who was sitting next to Noah in the back seat. "I was an idiot," Michael suddenly said, breaking the silence. Lauren looked at him through the rearview mirror, but didn't answer anything. She didn't want to hear another excuse. "Listen, Lauren," he continued as they parked outside the house. "I can't turn back time, but I'm willing to do anything to make you forgive me. I want to be the best husband and father, and not just because I need to. Because I love you. Both you and Noah." For the first time in a long time, Lauren saw real remorse in his eyes. But the wound still hurt. Days went by, and Michael tried to prove his words by his actions in every possible way. He got up in the middle of the night when Noah was crying, letting Lauren sleep, cooking breakfast, cleaning the house, and even on Saturdays making her coffee with milk as she liked. He spent so much time with Noah that the baby began to laugh faster in his presence than Lauren's. At first, she perceived these efforts as attempts to make amends, but over time she realized that he really changed. One evening, Lauren was sitting in the living room, looking at a man playing with their son on the floor. The kid laughed as Michael tossed him up and caught him. Something at this moment made her smile. "Michael," she said softly when Noah fell asleep and the two of them were sitting on the couch. "I think I'm starting to forgive you." He looked at her in surprise, and then a smile lit on his face. "Thank you, Lauren. I will never let you down again. I promise." And this time she believed him. The next morning, Michael brought her coffee in bed and handed her a box of tickets. "What is it?" Lauren asked in surprise. "These are tickets to the concert you dreamed of. Your sister Emma will stay with Noah. You and I haven't spent time together for a long time. I want to be the man you love again." Lauren couldn't hold back her tears. She realized that sometimes people make mistakes, but when they genuinely try to fix them, it's worth a second chance. They went to the concert, holding hands, as once at the beginning of their relationship. Michael learned the main lesson in his life. Family is always more important than football, friends, or any petty pleasures. Since there have been some moments or difficult situations in the family, Lauren has joked, "I hope there are no important matches today, Michael." "No, honey. Today only you and our Noah." "Always," he replied, hugging her. Several years have passed. Lauren and Michael's son, little Noah, grew up and became a real fidget. His father was now an exemplary father. Together with his son, they built houses out of cubes, rode a bicycle in the park and watched cartoons together, although Michael sometimes missed football matches. But he promised Lauren that he would never put sports above his family again. Michael once received an invitation to the football match of his favorite team, tickets to the VIP zone, where all fans dreamed of getting. It was a match he had been waiting for years. His first reaction was, "I have to go." But then he glanced at Lauren, who was putting Noah to sleep, and sighed. "What is it?" she asked, noticing his pensive appearance. "Just," Michael hesitated. "Imagine that I got tickets to the match I dreamed of all my life. But I don't want to go." Lauren raised her eyebrows then smiled. "Michael, you can go." "Really? But this time say everything honestly. I trust you." Michael was happy, but this time he decided to do otherwise. "Maybe we'll go together?" he suggested. "I want you to be with me." Lauren was surprised at first, but agreed. The next day they left Noah under Emma's supervision and went to the match. Lauren was never a big football fan, but seeing Michael's happy face sitting next to her and holding her hand was a real reward for her. "You know," she said after the match as they returned home, "you've really changed. I'm proud of you." Michael smiled and pressed her hand to her lips. "I had a lot of time to understand. The most important match in my life is you and our son. I always want to be a winner in this game." From that day on, a new tradition appeared in their family. They watched football together, even if Lauren did not really understand the rules. Something else was important: they were close, supported each other and lived moments that would remain in their hearts forever. Little Noah often fell asleep on the sofa between them, and Michael, wrapping his son in a blanket, whispered, "You'll always be my top fan, baby." Years passed, and Lauren and Michael's family only became stronger. Noah had already gone to school, showing success in his studies and sports. He loved football, just like his father. But, unlike Michael's former, Noah always put his family first. This was what Lauren and Michael raised in him since childhood. One day, when Noah was already 9 years old, the school announced a children's football championship. It was a big day for Noah, and he was so worried that he couldn't sleep peacefully. "Dad, you're coming, aren't you?" "Really?" he asked Michael, hitting the ball in the living room. Michael smiled, sat down next to him, and hugged his son by the shoulders. "Of course, Small. I will not miss a single second of your great match. My mother and I will shout the loudest in the stands." Lauren, hearing this, smiled gently. She knew that Michael's words were never empty promises now. The day of the championship has come. Lauren and Michael sat in the stands, holding hands. They were more excited and worried than Noah himself. The field was boiling with energy, children were running, fighting for the ball, and the stands were filled with fans' voices. "Come on, Noah. We are with you," shouted Michael, applauding with all his might. When Noah scored his first goal in the game, his eyes sparkled with joy, and his eyes immediately searched for his parents in the stands. He saw Michael jumping with happiness and Lauren applauding him with pride. "Dad, I did it!" Noah shouted from the field, waving his hand. "You're good, son. I always believed in you," Michael shouted in response. After the game, they all went together to celebrate the victory. Sitting in his favorite cafe, Noah looked at his father and asked seriously, "Dad, have you ever played football like that too?" Michael smiled and glanced at Lauren. "Yes, I played. And loved it very much. But one day I realized that the most important team in my life is our family. I will always be by your side, son. Always." Lauren felt her heart fill with warmth. Michael really became the man he promised to be. He never let her or Noah down again. Now their lives were filled not only with love, but also with the support and trust they built together. "Can you and I play football in the yard tomorrow?" Noah asked. "Of course, little one," Michael replied, winking at his son. "And Mom will cheer for us. Right, Lauren?" Lauren smiled and shook her head. "Absolutely. Now I'm your main cheerleader, Noah. And yours too, Mike." That evening, the three of them returned home, as happy as ever. And when Noah fell asleep, Michael hugged Lauren and said softly, "Thank you for the second chance. You changed my life." Lauren smiled and replied, "And you proved that it is never too late to become a better husband and father. I'm proud of you." Over the years, Michael and Lauren's family only grew stronger. Noah became a teenager and already played in the youth football team, showing extraordinary abilities. Michael, as always, was his most ardent fan, not missing a single game. He even became an assistant coach to be closer to his son and help him on his way to his dream. One day, Noah came home from school with sparkling eyes. "Dad, Mom," he shouted, throwing his backpack into the corner. "Our team was invited to the national tournament. We will go to another city for a whole week. This is great news, son." Michael picked him up, although Noah was already almost the same height as him. "Are you ready for such an event?" "Of course. But I want you both to go with me. I need my support team." Lauren smiled and looked at Michael, who seems to have already decided everything. "Well, of course, we'll go. How can we miss such a thing?" A week later, they all went to the tournament together. It was a great celebration of sports, thousands of young people, their families, coaches, all united by one dream. Michael and Lauren, holding hands, stood in the stands with the other parents. "He grew up so purposeful," Lauren whispered. "You instilled in him a love for sports, but he never forgets important things." Michael nodded, looking proudly at the field where Noah was preparing for the game. "I taught him to play football, but you taught him to be a real man." The match was intense, but Noah and his team won the final. When the final whistle sounded, he ran to the stands where his parents were standing and shouted, "This is for you, Mom and Dad." Michael hugged Lauren, and she felt tears of happiness rolling down her cheeks. Once they went through difficulties, but together they built a strong family where love, support and mutual understanding reigned. Later that evening, when they were all returning home together, Lauren said, "You know, Michael, I'm proud of us. We've come a long way, and now I look at Noah and see the result of our efforts." Michael took her hand and replied, "I have always said that our family is the most important team. And now we are winning together." Lauren smiled and leaned against his shoulder while Noah in the back seat enthusiastically talked about his plans for the future. Years passed, and the lives of Michael and Lauren's family continued to change. Noah was already a high school student, he was invited to the best sports academies in the country, and he dreamed of a career as a professional footballer. Michael didn't just support his son, he was his main mentor and friend. For Lauren, it was the greatest happiness to see how her husband and son became truly close. One evening, when the whole family gathered for dinner, Noah suddenly said seriously, "Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you." "Did something happen?" Lauren asked anxiously, putting the fork away. "Everything is fine, just," Noah paused, gathering his thoughts. "I received an invitation to the European Football Academy. This is a huge chance. But that means I'll go far and for a long time." Lauren felt her heart tighten. She always knew that this day would come, but she was not even mentally ready for it. Michael, on the other hand, smiled and slapped his son on the shoulder. "That's great news, son. I always knew you would succeed." "What about you?" Noah asked, looking at both of them. "I don't want to leave you alone." Lauren smiled through tears and took her son by the hand. "Noah, our task is to support you in your dreams. And if this chance is your ticket to a great future, we have no right to stop you." Michael added, "We will always be there, wherever you are. Every success of yours is our success." For the next few months, the family spent more time together than ever before. Michael helped Noah train, and Lauren cooked his favorite dishes, trying to catch up every minute. Finally, the day of departure came. The airport was full of people, but for Lauren and Michael the world narrowed down to one, their son, who stood in front of them with a suitcase. "Promise you'll call every day," Lauren said, hugging Noah as tightly as she could. "I promise, Mom," Noah whispered, hugging her back. Michael pressed his son to himself and said, "Remember that we are always rooting for you, wherever you are. You are always part of our team." "I love you," Noah said, trying to hold back his tears. When the plane took to the sky, Lauren snuggled up to Michael, and he hugged her and whispered, "Everything will be fine. We raised him right." Lauren nodded and replied, "And you know, Michael, that's our biggest win." From then on, their days began with the calls of Noah, who shared his achievements and difficulties. Each of his successes was a celebration for Lauren and Michael. They were no longer afraid of distance, because they knew that love and support held their family together, like the strongest team. Over the years, their history has become an example for friends, relatives, and even acquaintances. Michael often repeated, sitting in his chair, holding Lauren's hand, "The most important thing in life is to always be close to your team. Family is your most valuable game. And if you play right, you will never lose." A few years later, Noah achieved significant success in football. His name appeared in the headlines of sports news, and European clubs have already begun to pay attention to him. For Lauren and Michael, it was a pride, but at the same time they felt sad for the times when he was a little boy playing in the yard. One day, on Saturday night, when Lauren and Michael were sitting at home, the phone rang. Noah was on the screen. Lauren immediately picked up the phone. "Hello, Mom." "Hello, Dad." Noah's voice was joyful, but a little excited. "I have news for you." "What happened?" Michael asked anxiously, coming closer to Lauren. "I was invited to the main team of the club. I will play next season. This is my chance to express myself for real." There was silence in the house for a moment, and then Lauren and Michael shouted at the same time, "We are so proud of you, Noah." "I knew you could have," Michael added, his voice trembled with emotion. "But there's something else," Noah continued a little more quietly. "I'm going to have a big game soon, and I want you to be in the stands. I missed you and I really need your support. We'll come," Lauren and Michael said in almost chorus. That week they packed up and went to Europe. The trip was exciting for them, but at the same time long awaited. They wanted to see their son not just as a football player, but as an adult man who went to his dream. When they arrived at the stadium on the day of the match, the stands were crowded. Lauren was holding a scarf with the symbols of the Noah team, and Michael was holding a poster with the inscription, "Forward, Noah. We believe in you." The game was intense, and Noah, as a true professional, did his best. In the second half, he got a chance, which happens once in a lifetime. He got a pass, beat several opponents, and scored the winning goal. The stadium burst with ovations. The camera showed Noah's face glowing with happiness, and then he ran to the stands and pointed his finger at his parents. "This is for you," he shouted, and his voice drowned out the roar of the crowd. Lauren couldn't hold back her tears. She hugged Michael and he whispered, "Our boy has grown up." And he never forgot where he was from. After the game, they met in the hall of the stadium. Noah ran to them in uniform, hugged the two, and said, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. Dad, your football lessons and your words have always been with me. And Mom, your love and support made me stronger in the most difficult moments." "It's all you, Noah," Lauren replied, wiping her tears. "Your perseverance, your work. We were just always there." That evening they sat together in a small cafe near the stadium. Michael picked up the juice glass and said, "For our team. And for the victories that are still ahead. For the family," Noah added. Lauren smiled, looking at the two most important men in her life. She realized that true happiness is to be close to those you love and see them achieve their dreams. Since then, they have often come to Noah's games, supporting him from the stands. Their story has become an example for many. In life it is important not only to win, but also to be close to those who make you stronger. A few more years have passed. Noah became a professional footballer at a famous European club. His name was featured in the sports news, and fans admired his game. But despite his success and fame, Noah remained the same modest boy as Lauren and Michael raised him. One day, after an important game, Noah flew home for a few days. He wanted to be with his parents, who always remained a support for him. At dinner, he suddenly said, "Mom, Dad, I have a request for you." "Anyway, son," Michael replied, putting the fork away. "I want to do something special for both of you. You have always been my support team, and I want to thank you." Lauren smiled and said, "You've already done more than we could have dreamed of. You are our pride." "No, Mom," Noah replied seriously. "I'm not talking about success. I want to give you time together. So I bought you travel tickets. You always gave everything to me, but now it's time for you to relax and enjoy life." "Travel?" Lauren asked in surprise. "Yes. Your first real vacation in so many years. You will go to the sea, to a small cozy house, where you can be alone." Michael looked at his son and couldn't hide his pride. "You have no idea how important it is to us, Noah." "You deserve it, Dad," Noah replied. A week later, Lauren and Michael were already sitting on the plane, holding hands. They didn't remember the last time the two of them went somewhere far from home. It was a new chapter for both of them, a moment when they could remember who they were before they became parents. When they arrived at the small seaside town, Lauren admiringly stared into the endless sea. Michael, looking at her, said, "Do you remember our early years? We always dreamed of traveling, but there was never time or opportunity. And now our son has taken care of it," Lauren replied, leaning against him. Days at sea became a breath of fresh air for them. They walked along the beach, sat on the terrace with cups of coffee and listened to the sound of the waves. In the evening they often remembered their old days, about Noah's birth, about the difficulties they went through, and how much they learned together. "You know," Lauren Michael said one evening as they were watching the sunset, I thought the most important victories in my life were related to football or work. But in fact, my biggest victory is you and our family." Lauren smiled and replied, "My victory is you, Mike. Because you have changed. You've become the man I've always seen in you." After this trip, they returned home renewed, full of strength and love. Their family continued to grow. Noah not only reached heights in football, but also introduced them to his girlfriend, who became special to him. One day, when they were all sitting at a family dinner, Noah raised his glass and said, "For my parents. For their love, patience and strength that made me who I am today." Lauren and Michael looked at each other and realized that their story was not just about difficulties or trials. This is a story about love, a second chance and faith in the best. They have created a solid foundation for their family that will keep them together at all times. And so, every year their lives became richer, not with money or success, but with moments that remain forever in their memory and heart.